Welcome Tobago and welcome to another episode, the final episode of All Access Conversation with the Leaders or Discussion with the Leaders. I am Aisha Keens-Dumas, and on this fourth and last episode, we have with us political leader of the Tobago People's Party, Farley Augustine, as well as his position as the Chief Secretary of the Tobago House of Assembly presently. Welcome, Mr. Augustine. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Is all well? How is the stretch coming into the election?
This stretch is good. I think we have paced ourselves well. We develop a rhythm, and it's just to carry that rhythm to the election day. And of course, in all things, the most important element in your campaign is always the election day itself and how that machinery works. So it's just to ensure the machinery is well oiled and prepared for Monday the 12th.
Okay. My staff told me, Aisha, the first discussion you must have with the Chief Secretary has to be on Venezuela. Right? So I'm going with them. And there's a list of questions that we wanted to put forward. Do you, as the leader of the island of Tobago, an island that is looking towards autonomy, agree or disagree with the actions taken by the U.S. on Venezuela?
As the leader of the island of Tobago, I believe that we ought to take a position of neutrality, and it's a position I've been consistent on. I actually don't think Tobago should be picking either side in this battle. Most people don't understand how international relations work, in particular how international relations today works, vastly different from how it worked a decade or 2 decades ago. We live in a world that really and truly doesn't see small islands. We are easy to be bulldozed. And I don't know that we as a small island should be getting into a fight between a giant and a wannabe giant. So that's really not our business. You know, I did not agree with all the policies of Patrick Manning, but there's something he famously said while he was Prime Minister, which is, in essence, whoever answers the phone when I call, that is who I will do business with. In other words, it's not really our business who is their leader and how they get their leader. What matters is that when we pick up the phone and we have to have a conversation either with the United States or Venezuela, whoever is leader at the time and answers the phone, that's just who we should do business with. It's about minding our business internally, understanding that our space is sovereign, and respecting others to do whatever they so choose in their space. I observe the posturing of people, even during the last United States elections. And people were picking sides. As leader of the island, I did not have the luxury of picking a side. Perhaps if I wasn't leader of the island, perhaps if I was still Farley Augustine studying at university or teaching, I might have publicly picked a side and say, well, I want this candidate to win, or I align myself with these values versus the other. But I did not. Okay. And I'm glad I did not, because had I picked a side, I might have picked the side that did not win the election. And that's why it's important to mind your business and to do business with whomever answers the phone in the other place.
So the question next would be, Tobago was thrust into that action by the radar being placed on the island. Should citizens be concerned now that action has been taken?
I don't know that we were thrust into that action because of the radar. Yes, the radar is here. And yes, the radar came here without necessarily any public approval, without requiring THA approval or THA buy-in or THA consultation on the matter. And because that's just how the law is structured. And that's why I am adamant about this issue concerning autonomy, and that the bills that are there must include matters related to national security and international relations, and that there at least be concurrence with that. I don't think we need to be concerned at this time, because what is clearly evident is that no strike took place on Venezuela from our land. And I have said that consistently to Tobagonians, that I will be the first out there to cry foul, to even breach the law myself and go down there and mash up the radar myself. If it is, I believe that it was the intent of the United States government to use Tobago soil or Tobago waters to make a strike against Venezuela. The Prime Minister said to me, she also said it to the public, that Trinidad and Tobago will not be joining in any war, that Trinidad and Tobago will not be using its territory nor its assets to fight any war against anyone else. The strike that happened a few days ago, it happened without needing us. And again, that is something I said to Tobagonians. I said, we are concerned about a radar, but we have right out there in international waters, right out there in the Atlantic, right outside of our country. It's in international waters, so it's not even our waters. We can't stop anybody from being there. We have out there the largest vessel known to mankind, the largest vessel ever created, a vessel that can shoot off from its base 21 fighter jets, plus other assets. The truth is, the United States really and truly does not need 116 square miles to attack Venezuela. They can, and they did it using their own assets stationed in international waters. Something to note quite importantly is that while we took a position of neutrality, while I took a position of neutrality, other Caribbean leaders did not take positions of neutrality. But we are seeing some of those same Caribbean leaders who did not take positions of neutrality now having to walk their positions back. People who were playing bad and were mouthing off, they're now saying, okay, we will accept deportees from your country. For example, Dominica and Antigua and Barbuda. We're seeing a much more measured statement from Miss Motley out of Barbados. Why? Because we now find ourselves in a position where United States just simply went and take out, in 3 hours, take out the leader of a country who were huffing and puffing, and has said publicly and said to the world, we now in charge of that country. And for us, this is our closest South America neighbor. That's the Caribbeans. The Caribbean's closest South American neighbor will be Venezuela, because it's literally adjoined to Guyana. That is a CARICOM country, and a Caribbean country by way of culture. And that's why taking the position of neutrality was so important and was the wisest decision to take, because had I not taken a position of neutrality, I might have to be eating my words. Okay. Because now there is somebody else in charge there who, by their action, and let's be real, if United States could take out Maduro in 3 hours, they will take out Kamala in 30 minutes, and they will take me out in 3 seconds. Okay, right? That's the reality. Brings me to
my next question. Are you satisfied with the government's response to the action as it relates to Trinidad and Tobago?
I think the government in their response need to be extremely measured. Say far less on the matter. There is no need, I think, for us to implant ourselves too much in what's happening there. I understand the Prime Minister's position about crime and the feeling that we need external help to treat with our porous borders. And let's walk things back a bit. Trinidad and Tobago at one time under Manning, we were told we have 360 radar service, that all our borders are protected. Yet the guns kept coming, the cocaine kept coming, the weed kept coming, the transnational crime kept coming. We have gangs, we have human trafficking keep coming. You go down to the southwest, you see all those that not speaking English down there, and you know what's happening. They didn't just come here just so. We have had raids in Tobago. In fact, we had a raid in Tobago that picked up minors. And we had to bring people from Trinidad to execute that raid. Minors were picked up in the drug trade. We had picking up of young women that were part of the sex trade here in Tobago as well. And so let's not think for a moment that we're not impacted. We just had a massive oil spill because a massive vessel overturned in our waters. No radar picked it up. Granted, when that happened, we were supposed to have 2 radars on island working, 2 working. And those radars was...
Where would they have been located? At the Met offices?
No, I prefer not to say where they are located for security reasons.
Okay.
But they were there even before the government changed.
Okay.
Because, I mean, the OSP was, while PNM was in office.
Correct.
So they on the island for a while.
Okay.
And they were supposed to be to track maritime activity.
Related to Tobago. And these were Tobago radars or out to
No, those are radars from Trinidad and Tobago. Already, they were already here on the island. So the radar at Crown Point now really deals with air traffic. What's happening in our airspace.
Correct.
But we already had 2 radars on island prior to that.
Really?
People don't even know.
I am not aware of
Correct.
such a thing.
We already had 2 radars existing on the island. Existing at 2 polar opposite points.
Picking up what they're supposed to pick up.
Clearly not. We have had...
Who's responsible for those radars?
Ministry of National Security.
And
now there will be Ministry of Defense. Right? But let's look at the reality. We have had a murder in Plymouth. Those who committed the murder, from camera footage, they escaped by boat, by sea. We had just some months ago, fast track, we had some months ago, a robbery of a casino. They escaped by sea. We sent Tima with drone to show where they were going. And Coast Guard couldn't even respond because Coast Guard did not have fuel. I mean, had I known at the time, had somebody call me or wake me out of my bed to say, look, we need fuel. I would have...
easy to get.
I'd ensure they get fuel. But the point is that one cannot disagree that we have a problem with a porous border that has resulted in significant uptick in serious crimes on the island. So I understand the Prime Minister's anxieties and her willingness to seek external help to get that done. My only advice to her, if I am allowed to advise her, is to always measure the external help with also protecting the sovereignty of our space. But again, in context, the Prime Minister will have more information than I have. Dr. Rowley, when he was Prime Minister, he said that the head of the National Security Council will have information that the ordinary man does not have. In this context, I'm very much an ordinary man because neither the law nor cabinet policy allows me to be in the National Security Council. So I don't necessarily have the kinds of extreme data that might prompt her decision. And so I could only sit from a place, perhaps of ignorance, as to what exactly is happening, who the players are, why we need to take extreme decisions against them. I'm just simply saying, look, my people have anxieties about this thing, wish we were consulted before, wish we had used a different methodology, and so on. But I have to also respect that just like Dr. Rowley, she will have information that I don't have. And that might very well be protecting us now, and we're not aware of that. And that's something that we just have to look at. We also have to look at whether or not those that are most vociferous about a simple thing as a radar, whether they in fact have ulterior motives why they don't want a radar. Because let's be real, and I said this is a meeting in Goodwood. I know the youth man on the block. The youth man on the block, he doesn't have the capital to invest in bringing in multi-million dollars worth of drugs.
He's reselling. He's a reseller.
He's a retailer at the very end, right? He's in the distribution sector. So who is affording it? Who is paying for it? And the persons that can afford to pay for that, who else are they paying? Are they financing politicians and political parties to stand against policies that can in fact help us security-wise? Are they financing media houses to carry news headlines in a particular way to make the public be fearful of things that can protect them?
And the U.S. indictment against Ms. Duro hinted at some of these
more than hinted. In fact, there's a clear statement when I read that said that there are Caribbean politicians that have facilitated the drug trade. Now I must ask a question, which is, How come the former and all those that were jumping out ahead of the opposition leader to have press conferences, why are we not hearing press conferences from them? We used to see press conferences almost every day talking about the issue. Why have we not heard a single statement? Again, that is why I am very confident that I took the wisest decision of taking a position of neutrality. Because had I not taken a position of neutrality, I might have to come on your interview this evening to walk back statements that I made. And so Tobago, and by the way, this position came about because when I walk the ground, people have one clear position: don't get involved.
Okay.
When Tobago and said, don't get involved, we ain't want to be in that mix-up. What they're saying is, stay by yourself. Don't, you're not in America, you're not in Venezuela, don't get involved. Okay. Right? Mind your business, not get involved. No, we think we're not big enough. We are like the grass among elephants trampling. We're hoping not to get trampled in this. And so look at all the Caribbean leaders now, Jenny Flecking, look at those who were very vociferous nationally, who now just quiet, no press conferences. And that's because the thing has taken a turn that they did not expect it to take. And the truth is, one more thing on this, we have to remember that United States of America has always had the policy that Trump is executing now. Okay. It's not new. Okay. It was Obama that went in and took out Gaddafi. He was a Democrat and a left-wing leader. It was Bush who went and take out, in Iraq, Saddam Hussein. He was a Republican. Noriega was taken out by the US. This is not new insofar as United States policy. Their international policy has always been, when it comes to the Western Hemisphere and the Americas, they're in charge of it all. They could do what they want. They could come in and just take you out if they feel to take you out. And so it's in our best interest to keep a position of neutrality. When you keep a position of neutrality, you could talk to everybody. Just for Tobago Day last year on December 4th, I had the Charge d'Affaires of the United States Embassy here, who is the highest ranked diplomat in the country from the US. And I also had the Venezuelan ambassador here.
I remember that.
And I don't think you will see the two of them in the same space and diplomatic circle anywhere else in the country but Tobago. That's because we have adopted a position of neutrality.
All right. We'll take a break, folks, and when we return, we'll continue our conversation with Mr. Farley Augustine.
You can now get whatever you need whenever you need it anywhere in Tobago with Tobago. Your meals, medication, groceries, and shopping all delivered directly to you. No more hassle, no more stress. Get the Tobago app today on Google Play or Apple App Store.
That's TAPPOGO and let us deliver to you.
Check our website at www.tapogo.app or call the experts at 494-TOGO and 484-4746. Tobago. Relax. We will get it to you. Tobago's at your service.
For 10 years, Pulse 89.5 FM has been the beat that moves Tobago. From the latest hits to the voices of the community, we bring the island's rhythm to life. Every day, every hour. Stay locked to Pulse 89.5 FM, the beat of Tobago. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram and stream us worldwide on the TuneIn app.
Escape to elegance at Le Chateau Suites Tobago. Gated privacy, breathtaking villas, unforgettable memories, where Caribbean dreams become reality.
Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. Chief Secretary, as the Chief Secretary and as a politician, here in Tobago, I know you've seen a lot. Could you tell us one thing that has humbled you as you've moved about Tobago?
Why are you late? You remember when we had the town hall series as a way of the government keeping conversations between the executive, the administrative, and the people of Tobago. I am at a meeting I believe might have been in Wim, and a gentleman, I arrived at the meeting fashionably late, and probably as per usual late. But that was at the time we were also treating with the oil spill. So we were treating with the oil spill. I was having the briefings and coming from there to the meeting. And the gentleman started his question by asking me, why are you late? Quite frontally. And then he inquired if I got all the things I needed done before I got there. An elderly gentleman, I don't know him. Here's why it's humbling in a very good way, because being humble is not necessarily always a bad thing. Because it reminded me in that moment that Tobago is really just an island of villages and families. That people are so comfortable talking to their leader in the way they will talk to their sons and their daughters, in the way they will talk to their brothers and their mothers, as family. And I don't want that to change. Perhaps if the personality of the chief secretary would be different, then people might be a bit timid to ask questions in a particular way, or to confront in a particular way. But I open myself up to people just talking to me in the casual way, in any way they feel like, once they're not disrespectful. And generally, I don't think, and I have not found Tobagonians to be disrespectful, but I find Tobagonians to be quite frank in how they speak. And that's something I enjoy and I don't want to change. I go to meetings, and of course, I am going to meetings tonight. After this program, I am running to meetings, essentially. And we have meetings both at Mount St. George and at Pembroke. And the reality is that after the meeting, when the meeting is done, I am sure I'll be there for no less than an hour. So meeting might finish at 10, 11:30. I'm sure I'm not leaving there until after midnight. Why? Because people just standing there in line, they want to talk to me. And for me, people being able to meet me and say, why are you late? Why I wasn't here before now? What were you doing? Did you get through to get it done? That kind of probing as if they're talking to their son, for me is humbling in a good way. For me, I see it as a form of endearment, as a sign of love. Tobagonians, when they fall out of love with you, they stop talking to you.
Okay, but let's drill down on the late. In terms of, you are talking about you specifically.
Yeah.
But lateness is something that happens generally in our society.
Yes.
And if it is because you've pointed out something about it, I want to ask you, as your administration, what in terms of policy have you done about that lateness? Because that lateness, even though you consider it an endearment for businesses and otherwise, it causes problems.
Well, I want to answer it in two parts. So it's not a simple, straightforward issue. Let me start by talking about me. So already for this day, I have had 4 or 5 engagements. I also have to include getting to and from the office. So very often, when you see me using the siren, it's not even because it's just trying to get to the next place on time. The people will come and sit and talk with me. The most difficult thing to say to someone is, well, I'm sorry, I have to cut this now, because if I don't cut this now, I can't get to the next place on time. Because again, Tobagonians will take offense. If I say to them, listen, you're here for 15 minutes, I can't stay with you any longer, I need to go. The next thing they say is, oh, you can't give me more than 15 minutes, but when you want me vote, you come and sit down at my house door. You understand how it is? So it causes the schedule to run on each other. So I will be perfectly fine for the first engagement and everything runs on. I think the conversation should be about productivity as opposed to lateness, and I'll tell you why. There are many workers that we have will show up to work by 8:30 in the morning, but they leave exact on the dot by 4:15 p.m. You won't be able to get them. You can't get them to say, well, okay, this thing is urgent. Give me an extra 30 minutes. Can you stay until 6 p.m. this evening? Again, overtime. Again, a day off. But even without that, you show up on time. Then you spend an hour having a breakfast and reading your devotion. You have an hour for your lunch. And nothing should disturb your lunch hour. And then when you look at what is delivered in the period, it's not productive. I like starting my day around 10. That's a sweet spot for me, right? Because it gives me time in the morning to take care of my daughter, ensure wife and daughter off to work and school, and then I get to the office. But at 10 p.m., I'm still there. At 11 p.m., I might be at a function somewhere still. Maybe sometimes at 12:30 p.m., I'm rushing to catch a flight because I have a 7 a.m. appointment in Trinidad the next day. So it's not so much about when you show up, but what you do when you show up. Our larger problem is productivity.
How you focus on productivity.
So one of the things, and just this fiscal, we have made a priority, is the issue of retraining and retooling staff as a priority. And when we say priority, mean that we put budgetary allocation to it. So you train and retool staff so that they not only understand what is to be done, but new ways of getting it done. Also the introduction of digital platforms to get things done. With digital platforms, and as we speak, the Division of Tourism is already live with their website. I could go on the Division of Tourism website and I could show you, for example, who is doing a particular task, who is assigned to the task, where they are with the task, if they are late, if something is still awaiting the administrator to be signed off on, if it's at accounts, what vote it's coming out of. In other words, we could track the whole process.
Okay, and this was rolled out in tourism.
In tourism,
is
as a pilot.
Is the retraining and the retooling also rolled out in tourism, or
no? That's across the board. We're doing that.
Okay.
But we started at tourism with this website because that's how we go into all divisions, so that it can be measured. Work can be measured, so that at any given point in the near future, you come to my office and say, Chief, I applied for a grant or a donation for XYZ. Can you tell me where it is? I don't need to pick up the phone and call the chief and say, did the donation committee see this? Did the donation committee make I could just go on the website, see where it is, see where it is in the pipeline. Maybe it passed the donation committee, it's now on an administrator's desk. So this
is for the general public or only for administrative people to be able to see?
It's for administrative, so people will be able to see.
Okay, and be able to report to the public.
Report to the public.
Able to go in
What we have done also for the public is that we have introduced fully 100% digital tendering process, which is the e-tender platform. So we introduced that 2 years ago, where all the submissions and so on are electronic. On the back end, what will be rolled out in this year as part of that platform is that you, the public, could now monitor these contracts. So you receive the contract, you have completed, you don't want to check up on your payments. You can use the same platform to check to see where payments are, so you know exactly where the lag is in the system. That also will help with greater efficiency and productivity. We talk about time. Look at the fellas who work cleaning the side of the road. Nobody is more on time than them. They are there sometimes at 5 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning for a 7 a.m. job.
Yes.
Correct?
Correct.
But then people complain the plant material is at the side of the road still. People are concerned about whether they do sufficient work for the time.
Too much noise too early
they make too much noise too early, but they work pretty supposed to be 7 to 11. People concerned they might just be working for half an hour and then going. So are they productive enough? So I want us to move the conversation from time to productivity, which for me is the far greater issue, because the man who goes to work at 4 o'clock and by 4:30 done work and getting paid versus me who go for 10 and at 10 p.m. I'm still working. I am by far more productive with my day and my contribution to the island versus a man who just giving 30 minutes for the salary. And then, of course, you have to look at the economic impact of such a lack of productivity and all of that. So the conversation really and truly should be about productivity.
Okay. The other conversation in terms of policy. Now, I was sent to peruse the CSO labor data force, labor survey. And based on the numbers that I've seen, Tobago lists very low in terms of labor statistics. One of the things they are saying about Tobago is that Tobago is very undereducated, and education is usually a good measure of poverty. So the question is, why has Tobago...
What's the age of that survey? When was that last survey done?
The labor force, it wasn't a time. They just listed all the indexes and compared us to the administrative.
But that data might be as old as 2011.
Well, some of the days they measured up until 2024, so it's as late as 2024, especially measuring some of the indexes. And there's a concern among some that undereducation reflects the poverty levels in Tobago. And of course, the poverty levels are problematic for us.
I don't know that this so-called under-education reflects the poverty level as much as it reflects Tobago having one of the highest outward migration rates in the entire region.
Well, and that is part of it as well.
In fact, in my mind, that is it. And I'll give you an example. My sixth form class had 93 of us, 93. So I walked into Bishop's High School in Lower 6 in what was a sort of, I think it was an almost yellow, creamish wooden building with some BRCs for a window, with 93 of us there in 2001, right? 93 of us. I don't know if I can find from that 93, 50% of us living on the island of Tobago.
Okay.
And if one is to consider, I went into school at common entrance time, so not even a C when everybody has a place. So if you should consider for a moment that I was among the couple of people who actually passed common entrance, considered to be among the brightest on the island, and yet, not even 50% of us are still on the island, then it means that we keep turning out the bright minds, sending people off to university,
and they're not coming back.
They're not returning here. So what we are left with to run the island will be, and I want to choose my words carefully. I don't want anybody.
Yes,
I don't want anybody to feel slighted.
Correct.
Because the reality is, those who choose to stay have kept us going.
Correct.
They have kept working, notwithstanding whatever the capacity limitations might be. Right. And we must honor them, and we have to recognize them for that, the giving. And some might be working blood, sweat, and tears to get some of the things done. Yeah. But we have been for very many years propping up the economy even in Trinidad.
Correct.
And some of the data that Trinidad might have really belongs to Tobago. I saw somewhere, perhaps about 10 years or so ago, it was being bandied about that there are at least 300,000 Tobagonians living in Trinidad. I'm not sure where that data came from, but it was there in the space. If we take that number to be true, it means that there are more of us living in Trinidad than living at home in Tobago.
Yeah. And that's one of the things that was part of the discussion. Because what is happening, it is believed, is that which is the other data that was provided, the industries that Tobago is focused on, agriculture, tourism, and such a burgeoning public sector, are the industries that have the least amount of productivity, take up the least amount of, and undereducated, the definition in Trinidad and Tobago is having less than 5.0 levels. So the problem is many of the people, including the 50% you talked about, are so well educated, they are unable to find jobs in industries in Tobago because the industries that we focused on take up a lot of what they call the undereducated people. So they're left with no choice but to move to Trinidad or the US.
But more than that, And it's a difficult conversation. I had this conversation back in 2021 when we were running. And my political opponents tried to make it seem as though I wanted to come and fire CPEP and URP. So it's not the first time I'm being accused of wanting to do that.
Okay.
And they just pulled a clip from a media interview I had, I think, with Brother B, and another one I had with then Fazir Mohammed, where I was making the point that our public sector, our public service, our wage bill, the amount of people we hire is just too much. That's just the reality. It's not sustainable. If you listen to my presentation on the platform in Bonaccord recently, across on Silk Cotton Trace, I was saying to the people, we have to grow other industries. Because if we don't grow other industries, if we don't allow the private sector to grow, then what will have to happen is that the state will have to keep employing more and more people. People will keep getting vexed because they ain't get a government work. I want a work. I ain't voting because me ain't get no work. Right? We really can't employ everyone.
We need to
and it's not sustainable.
When we come back, we'll continue the conversation with Mr. Farley Augustine. Stay tuned.
You can now get whatever you need whenever you need it anywhere in Tobago with Tobago. Your meals, medication, groceries, and shopping all delivered directly to you. No more hassle, no more stress. Get the Tobago app today on Google Play or Apple App Store.
That's TAPPOGO, and let us deliver to you.
Check our website at www.tapogo.app or call the experts at 494-TOGO and 484-4746. Tobago. Relax. We will get it to you. Tobago's at your service.
For 10 years, Pulse 89.5 FM has been the beat that moves Tobago. From the latest hits to the voices of the community, we bring the island's rhythm to life. Every day, every hour. Stay locked to Pulse 89.5 FM, the beat of Tobago. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram and stream us worldwide on the TuneIn app.
Escape to elegance at Le Chateau Suites Tobago. Gated privacy, breathtaking villas, unforgettable memories, where Caribbean dreams become reality.
Right, welcome back. So we want to go back to the conversation in terms of you were talking
I don't want to leave it hanging.
Right.
Unless they accuse me of wanting to fire people.
No.
Which is not what I want.
Understood.
I'm just simply saying what we have working for us now is not sustainable. Now what we have working for us is not all bad. If we did not have this system, then we would have crashed during COVID.
Right. So employment is important.
In fact, when I came in as Chief Secretary, we were on the tail end of COVID. And what the Caribbean Development Bank said to me was, if you weren't employing so many people, your economy would have crashed a long time.
Really?
Because all your industries were so dependent on the movement of people, having people interfacing with the businesses, that people would just be out of work and no money.
But how do we change? Well, not change it. How do
so it's
we
not all
go
bad,
past
but
it?
to go past it, we just have to grow alternatives that are as attractive as or more attractive than the government sector.
Which is?
And the truth is, tourism is one of those that can provide a natural competitive advantage as well. It
CSO
can.
data says no.
But I don't know CSO data can say no. And I'm questioning those CSO data.
Okay.
Now, if we do tourism right, then, and I'll always go back to Castara. I'll always go back to Castara. Let me tell you why.
I understand.
And let me give you why.
Okay.
When I first ran in Castara, the biggest trouble I got wasn't getting people to believe in me, was getting people to go out and vote.
Okay.
Because people said to me quite frankly, we don't really need the government. I don't get nothing from the government. You see, my guest house here, my Airbnb, government didn't give me this. I have been trying for the longest while to have an office in Castara.
I heard you say that.
Right?
And they're not willing because they make more money.
Correct. because
the short-term
because
rentals.
from the THA, based on whatever the policy is there, for that office I might be able to pay between 3,000 something and 6,000.
They make much more than that.
But what they
short-term.
make short term with people coming in every weekend and during the week, and in US dollars, they're looking down on what I have to offer for a space.
Okay.
And the point is, they are pretty self-sustaining there. So if it can work for that small community,
Why
where
doesn't it work for
there
others?
isn't any large hotel, so there is no all-inclusive, there is no 5-star, it's really just nice, organic, earthy, rustic, well-placed, beautiful views, well-placed in environment, cabins and guest houses and Airbnbs, etc., that are doing really well.
Okay.
And I'm saying if it can work for them, to the extent that people will look at the rep and say, well, I don't really need to vote because
Government has not done anything
government
for
does,
me.
and they don't need to because I'm managing my own thing here, right? And you want people to have that kind of independence, and that's why.
But is that reasonable? Because don't they still require the government to provide the infrastructure that they need, to provide the proper banking, all these other things that they should see is important?
But because for their daily life and their daily sustenance, they don't necessarily need the government. It means that they can hold their rep to a higher standard.
Okay.
And I'll give you an example. When we wanted the ATM in Castara, you know who led the charge?
Ooh.
The Castara Tourism Development Agency.
Okay.
Not even the Tobago House of Assembly.
Private sector, well, not NGO.
NGO.
Okay.
Right? And all the bank did was to call me to say, area rep, is this something you will support? And I just said yes.
Okay.
In other words, they were able to take in front on a matter so important for the community without having to have the community do it.
Okay.
Let me give you an example of when community
Have the
works.
THA do it.
How the THA do it. Let me tell you an example of when government works. I go across the space side. And this is what I'm trying to form with all my villages. I go across the space side. Our street lights not working. I say to the village council, who by the way have had about 3-4 elections over the last 5 or so years.
Okay.
So it's working well, timely elections, the changing officers, the following the constitution, etc., etc. I say, go, all I need is the light pole numbers. I expect them to come back to me with the light pole numbers. When I drive in a village, I see Tiantec there and the village council president, lights going up. Right? You know why? Because they collect the data, they went to Tiantec, they got no hassle, so they didn't need me.
Okay.
The point is not that they won't need government at all, because they will definitely need government from time to time.
Yes.
But the more self-sustaining our people are, we make for a much more robust democracy. And that's why, as a policy, for example, we put out a tender some months ago, some THA properties asking for requests for proposal, RFPs. And I'll tell you what some of them were. We put out down Petit Trou, that's down in Lambeau, where people drive in and park up and windsurf and so on. We put out what we call a lookout point above Speyside.
Okay.
Flagstaff,
I saw that one.
Flagstaff, where I got married. Mount Dillon Hill above Castara. I think somewhere around the fort in Plymouth, etc. And essentially we said to Tobagonians, here we have these spaces. Can you give us your best proposal for some business, some entity you could set up here that will respect the environment, respect our tourism product, but you earn from it? The reason for a policy like that, which is a marked shift from the THA going in and building every beach house, and then trying to rent the beach house for $500 or $700. So you really ain't making any money to cover your maintenance and to pay the staff, but you just give somebody to run. It's really about empowering people.
Okay.
And saying, look, you as a Tobagonian, I prefer to give you a lease for the land. You set up your business and people could earn from it. Because right now as it is, you go to Flagstaff, you take some photos, and then what?
You go home.
The children get bored after a few minutes. How long you keep them there? Nobody there, no little ice cream, no cotton candy, no balloon art. I have been to public parks where people, and you sit down at Pigeon Point now, where artists there doing sketches, live sketch. So if we are to monetize the tourism product in a way where people feel comfortable leaving the THA to going into their own businesses, we have to create the avenues and facilitate it.
But what about foreign investment that needs to come in? And I mean, you talk about tourism as one. What are some of the other areas that Tobago could get involved in that would allow one for the same people, the same 50% in your class to come back home to be able to find a position, to be able to exist and have a good life, plus others come as well?
We have to welcome some foreign direct investment. But let us be very honest. The moment Tobagonians start hearing an outsider coming to set up business, people were ready to protest.
Yes.
People were ready to question
How
why
can
they're
we
coming.
change that?
Why
Is
they're coming.
education enough? Because as Tobago, the only way for us to grow is for some outside development. And I mean, I know that just based on my knowledge from university. So how
Correct.
do you change
And
the people's minds about that?
I think it's just to get people to understand that you cannot pack Tobago in a suitcase. As simple as that. Meaning, you come here, you invest, you put down a business. Even if it fails, you cannot pick up the land and pack it in a suitcase and go on the plane and go away. The land remains here. It goes nowhere. The most that can happen is that it will change hands, change ownership. But if it fails, it's not your money that failed. It's somebody from outside money who failed. And you could move to the next and the next and the next and keep it going. That's one. Number two, it's also about what kind of foreign investments that we have. And number three, we have to encourage partnerships. There's nothing wrong with locals, with indigenous people here, residents here, finding partners outside of Tobago, outside of Trinidad and Tobago, and saying, come, let's partner on getting this thing. As a THA, while we have not signed off just yet on any of those FDIs, what we did is that we went out and we engaged en masse all around the world, from the UK to the US. Say, come, Tobago is a beautiful place for you to invest in. We got proposals in. And then what we're doing now is setting up like an investment commission to scrutinize them, because you want to make sure when you say yes to a proposal, you don't do injury to your own island, your own people, you don't damage indigenous cultures, you don't bring anybody that might be abusive to you, right? You have to be wary of neocolonialism. That's the honest truth. So the investment commission now, that's what the stage we're at now, will actually review these proposals and then make a recommendation to the executive that says yes or no. I could have taken a position that once an investment comes, as chief secretary, I'm going to just go to the executive and say yes. I feel I would not be the most responsible. I felt the more responsible thing to do was to have a commission that will include legal minds, people into finance and economics, people into archaeology and history and so on, environment, so a mixed group that could properly judge these proposals before recommending to the executive and Tobago, look, yes or no.
And these are outside proposals?
These are proposals outside.
And how do you expect to integrate that here with the difficulty that, well, I guess the only law is that they can't own land, but if they have capital that they want to put in, there's a way that it's able to
yes,
come
correct.
in.
And they could own land with through a license. But there's another method too, which is the Tobago House of Assembly can look at the possibility of taking equity in some of these firms. In other words, we have the land. You setting up the business. Instead of us transferring the land to you, the land remains as Tobago's share in your business. So even if all we get is a 10% from your revenue every month, that's 10% we did not have for land that was just in bush. So that too is a method that we have been thinking about. And one of the first things that we'll do upon winning is to come to Tobago and say, this is your investment commission. These are the investment proposals that we currently have. These people will come to you and say, we have judged this thing, we have looked at this thing, and we think we should go.
So right now they're still in the stage where they're being evaluated.
Yes, they're being
want to
evaluated.
share anyone with us? Any one of the projects that might be interesting to the public?
Of course, I could share at least one. I met in London with the owners of the estate at Kingsby. Now, they wanted in the past to do some resort and some villas there. And for whatever reason, it did not happen. So I met with them. And that's why when I had the town hall meeting in Delaford, I told the people in Delaford, I am bringing them to talk to you again. The thing is, they owned the land before the land license.
Okay.
So the land was already in the name when the land license happened.
Okay.
And so I am trying to encourage them to come back and invest in that area.
Okay.
Because I have Delaford as a village where most of, if not all of, most of the young professionals, they tend to leave. Because they feel like not much is happening in Delaford.
Correct.
So even if they return to Tobago, they don't go back to Delaford and stay.
That's true for a lot of the
rural.
Yeah.
Right. And if we have some development in that area, it could become a significant growth pole for that region between Roxborough and Charlottesville. It will also trigger other developments. It will trigger roads such as the road going through Murchiston, which is an informal bush road now. It might trigger getting decent roads going around Shaw Park. Yes, there's an area called Shaw Park between Delaford and Speyside.
Okay.
The Kingsby and Speyside. It will trigger perhaps consideration for marina development in the Kingsby area. So many other things. The way development also works is that one triggers the other. So that's one of the things that we're working on. Another thing that we're working on is the Friendship Estates area. Now, prior to coming into office, some lands were given out for Friendship Estate, one of which was for a water park.
Yes.
Right? Again, I am not as petty as they will want to make me look. I was not the one that issued them a letter to say, we're giving you the land for a water park. That was done by Mr. Dennis, not me.
Yeah.
Notwithstanding, I've held on to the proposal. Sadly, the only reason that has not started is because although the lands at Friendship were compulsory acquired, Section 5 was never done.
What is?
Section 5 is the final stage where the surveys are completed. The cabinet sends it to the president, and the president, by writ and it being gazetted, formally declares.
Okay.
So, because that has not happened, we essentially don't have a complete deed for the property.
This is the whole of Friendship Estate?
The whole of Friendship Estate.
Okay.
Which means that we can't register a lease to the company because it is a local company to go ahead.
Okay.
Because a long-term lease has to be registered and you cannot have a faulty deed and issue a lease. A lease is just as a deed.
Yes.
Right? And that's the only kickback. That process is well on the way. In fact, it only got started when the government changed. Sadly.
That's
yes.
8 months ago.
Correct. Sadly.
Okay.
So the survey works inform is completed, and cabinet should have already informed the president. It was the same thing over by what we call Racing Club or Green Acres, which is the other side.
Sure.
Just before COVID itself, where TK Hardware and there.
Okay.
That was the same issue with those lands.
Okay.
Same issue with those lands. So all of those persons relocated there from the airport could only now get documents for the lands they were paid for, because the Section 5 was only completed about a month or so ago.
Okay.
And those lands were purchased a long time ago. So again, that's what happens when you don't follow things through legally. You end up with problems on the back end.
Okay. In the last 5 minutes, our hour went very quickly. Could you list your top 3 priorities if re-elected? Your administration's top 3 priorities going into your next term if you are re-elected?
When we are re-elected on January 12th, 2026, priority number 1 has to treat with modernizing the public service and productivity. Given that this is our largest economic output at this point, our largest productive sector, we have to be the most efficient and the most modern, especially if we have to do what we just were talking about. Two will be to look at some significant maritime development. So we have along the entire windward coast what the Caribbean Development Bank says will cost us $1 billion to treat with coastal erosion. So when I say maritime development, look at how we protect our coastline and also what sort of investments we can have there in our maritime space that we can benefit from, like marinas, for example. So the assessment that was done looked at Charlottesville, coming all the way down to Pigeon Point area.
Okay, so the whole side.
The whole broadside. No, the whole broadside.
All right. The third priority.
The third priority for us is Scarborough Secondary School. We have made that a priority in this fiscal year, actually. And that's one of the reasons why people should vote for us, because the government could change and a new government could have a different priority. We have said this thing has been going on for too long. It means that we are going to reprioritize our spending to make Scarborough Secondary one of the priority that we're going to start. That school is in jeopardy where it is. We need a new school. It is our second largest school by population size. If we wake up one morning and that school is no more, we do not have any space that we can decant the school to.
Has the tender been awarded?
No, the tender has not been awarded.
Has it gone out?
It has gone out
Did
already.
you all get responses?
Yes, we got responses.
It was closed?
It was closed, so it's somewhere at the evaluation stage. As a matter of fact, the court has been writing the contractors asking for extra time because we weren't getting the budgetary allocation to fund the bill out of it.
Any of those contractors Tobago contractors?
There are, I'm advised there might be about 2 Tobago contractors that actually put bids into it.
Okay, and then the question would be something like that. Was there anything in the tender that's asked specifically for Tobago contractors to allow them to have an opportunity to do such a project?
In the evaluation, a score will be given for locality.
Okay.
However, based on OPR rules, once it crosses $1 million, we cannot exclusively use locality as the only measure
to give a contract.
Once
it crosses what? $1 million?
Because the law was amended by the former government that if it's under $1 million, then the local governing entity ought to create rules as to how we can work.
Okay.
So under $1 million, we have more flexibility. Over $1 million, we have to go strictly by the OPR rules. So the way it works is you could have a score for locality, but it cannot be so weighted that it skews the whole process.
So then over $1 million, our Tobago contractors have to step up.
Have to.
How have you, and I mean we're out of time, but
I can tell you,
encourage our Tobago contractors
we have
to
done,
get there?
We've done more than encourage. We have had training programs. We have gone to communities saying this is how you do your tender. I have been begging contractors to also invest in staff and a company that can assist them in doing their tenders.
Okay.
And I'll give you one example. I have seen, for example, when there was an issue with some security contract and a local firm complained to me. But when I look what the local firm submitted versus what 2 larger firms on Trinidad submitted, we will run into trouble in the same way the central government then lost a $15 million case against Calco simply because the government felt I would give this smaller contractor it. And Calco went to court and said, but this smaller contractor doesn't have the experience, they don't have the capital, so why would you give them? And the court agreed with Calco.
Okay. And
the government still had to pay Calco the $15 million.
So
and the work
contractors have to step up.
Right, and here's another tip. You don't have to go it alone. The OPR allows for partnerships, meaning that you and another firm can also bid and tender. So we need to get our firms bidding. You may also see instances where tenders went out and we just did not close it.
Okay.
Meaning we did not award or anything and we just allow it to lapse. The truth is, when we look at it and how the tenders went in, it will just go to somebody else again. And sometimes if if it's not a...
You should be saying that on TV. OPR is going to beat you up for that?
No, at the end of the day, the policy is determined by the executive.
Okay.
In other words, we decide at the end of the day whether we go ahead with a project or not.
Okay.
And whether we spend that money.
Okay.
No, the
perspective.
executive has no say in the procurement process. So what happens is we say, okay, we want to build Scarborough Sec. In that procurement process, we are completely excluded.
Okay.
So the procurement officers and the administrator or the chief ad, they do all the sign off. And they get to the point where they come to the secretary to say, okay, we have completed our process. We want to recommend that we award the contract to X, Y, or Z. The only thing that the executive has is to say, we're not going to do this project anymore.
Understood.
But then what that does is that it delays our delivery.
The project, yeah.
It delays the project, and sometimes it might delay it indefinitely.
Yeah.
But that's the only tool that we have that we can use, because at the end of the day, the executive has to make the decision to spend the money or not. That can't come from the procurement officers or the administrator. Okay. So that's really the only thing we have on. But over the next 4 years, given what we have projected in the blueprint, given how we actively want to build out an island and transform our public infrastructure and so on, it will require that we move on some of these projects and that we create a sort of construction boom in this space.
All right, we have to leave it there. Thank you, Chief Secretary.
Thank you very much.
Political leader of the Tobago People's Party, Farley Augustine. Thank you all so much for viewing. Remember that next week is election, Monday, January 12th. Go out and vote for the party of your choice.
From 6 a.m. in the morning.
From 6 a.m. to 6 p.m.
For the Tobago People's Party.
You have a good evening. Bye-bye.